Hello class, welcome to week 5 of this 6-week term, and for week 5 we are starting what's called Judeo-Christianity, and we have lesson plan 10, lesson plan 11, and lesson plan 12. And lesson plan 12, because I don't like to assign too many lesson plans in each week, that can either go up week 5 or week 6, but if you do put it up week 6, remember this is final exam week and you already have work to do and to complete your final, and the pressure's kind of gets a little intense. So my advice is to try to get it completed week 5. And if it goes into week 6, it will not be considered late, but put it up early week 6. Because this work down here in week 6, it doesn't allow you that weekend. The course ends on a Friday at noon, according to Mount Sac schedule. My grades are due that Monday, so I really have to get your work by Friday at noon. Okay, when you open up lesson plan 10 on Judaism, again, you have the required lecture. This one is explaining in 6 minutes. I give you a whole synopsis, a whole summary of Judaism, its history, its belief, its branches, etc. Then I have my lecture notes that I give to my on-campus students I supply you with. I also have the music, okay? The required reading here, it's very simple. I'm sure you like it when there's just that one article. This article here, again, is the Pluralism Harvard Columbia website article. This here is the BBC, and again, some semesters I switch around. I use the BBC or I use this. If you opened this up and you preferred this one, let me know that, because I always want to have students' insights there. But for this semester, I'm assigning this one here. And then moving to the film, okay, 2 required, and then this one's optional. And then this one's, I do like PBS and BBC and those various films. So this is a PBS one, 2-hour documentary and on Judaism, and I'm not assigning all of it. Again, I know attention spans aren't 2 hours, so it's about 30-minute viewing here. The crash course, again, I'm a fan of John Green, so the crash course on Judeo-Christianity here. The first 5 minutes deals with Judaism, the next 6 on Christianity, so it'd be wise just to watch it all the way through and complete that there, the 11 minutes. Now this one here is an optional one. I used to have it assigned. I had it up here as required, but I replaced it. And the reason why, it really looks at the topic of Masada in Judaism. It's in the 1st century, and it's a story of how the Jews, in hiding from the Roman power, went up on hilltop fortress and hid there. And the Romans came up and attacked them. But instead of being killed by the Romans, the story is committed mass suicide. And there was only, I think, I forgot if it's 2 or 4 survivors, but those eyewitnesses then told the famous Jewish historian Josephus, his name is here, what had happened, and then that became recorded as the Masada event. And the documentary is here. The reason why I kind of took it out as required is lately, in the last decade or so, archaeologists have called into question how accurate that account is. And so, knowing that it's a fascinating story of Jewish history, it may have absolutely happened according to the eyewitness accounts and recorded correctly by Josephus. Because there's a little bit of question mark how accurate it is, I felt uncomfortable assigning it as the required and made it as an optional. But it really is an interesting story. Okay, so clicking out of that, we have the post topic. Now this one here requires you to watch a little film watching. The film watching here, well, let me give you the topic first. The topic is the controversial issue of Israel and Palestine. Now, Israel was created in 1948 by the United Nations. It was the Zionist call for the Jews to go back to their homeland, and the United Nations honored that, especially in light of what happened in World War II to the Jews. And in consequence, the Palestinians were dispersed from their homeland, and it caused a great controversy and a lot of acrimony between them. And so here we have a BBC website examining it. It seems some people have argued it's a little more on the pro-Israel side, even though BBC is trying to be objective. Okay, and I can understand that. This one here is very pro-Palestine. It's called The 5 Broken Cameras. It was up for an Oscar. I said last year. I think it was last year. But The 5 Broken Cameras is an amazing documentary. It's not 5 minutes long. It's just a small clip of it. But it's about a man filming the tension going on in the region, and each time he films, his camera gets broken because the Israeli soldiers, smash it or break it or shoot at it or what have you. You do see some death in that film. It's very sad. Some students have told me they've cried watching it. But to watch these 2 films, to get a little bit of background, some students are not clear with this cutoff, I will correct that, but not clear on what's going on in Palestine and Israel and that argument there. And so having watched those 2 films, getting a little background, then respond here. Okay, so that would be your post question. And your exam question here. Okay, the 4 bullets. Okay, clicking out of that. Then we move to what's called biblical scholarship. And biblical scholarship, I have a little note to you. It's again, it says, this lesson plan is not meant to offend anybody. A lot of students aren't familiar with biblical scholarship. It really developed in the 19th century, really comes out of Germany. But when you're going to, for instance, any of the major universities today and you're studying world religions, that's what you're studying is biblical scholarship. You're not there to study religion as a believer. You're not there in a theological program. You're there to academically study it and investigate historically what really happened. Is there any evidence for that and so forth? And it's not to slap your hand in the face of the believer. It's more to really examine historically what evidence we have, what's the archaeological evidence and so forth. And so this is what my discipline does. It's kind of a academic study of religion. It's not a believer's perspective. So to start with, I don't offer you a lecture from me. I offer you a lecture from a Yale University professor. She's going to examine the Hebrew Scriptures, and she's going to cover 5 misconceptions of the Bible. And she does a really very simple, very clear job. Students really like it. And then I have my little notes here. What do I have my notes saying? Oh, what biblical scholarship is and how it started. What's the objective of biblical scholarship? Scholars in the field, and why there's a different approach when studying Eastern religions to Western religions. That's probably an important one to look at. And I put a little note here explaining that many Eastern religions are less concerned with historical events, but more concerned with mythology and philosophy. Okay, and when you're dealing with mythology and philosophy, you're really out of the realm of historical inspection. But when you're dealing with Western religions, a lot of historical claims are made, and when they are made, then it's the scholar's job to evaluate whether historically it happened as it is being explained. So Eastern religions do make historical claims. They claim that Buddha existed, Nanak existed, and so forth. And so those could be under scrutiny, of course, and examined. There's an Eastern claim that the founder of Taoism is Lao Tzu, and in Hinduism, there's the historical claim that Krishna existed, and both of those are challenged. Scholars don't necessarily think those are real historical figures. So in some cases, the Eastern history gets challenged, but Western more so because Western makes more historical claims. Okay, let's click out of that. So to watch that film, the required reading here, this is just a one-page Time magazine. An example is there's mentioning of camels at the time in some of the biblical stories, but we know that camels didn't exist in that area at that time, and so that's a little explanation of that. And then false testament. False testament, it really looks at several examples of biblical historical claims, and just it doesn't necessarily say they're all wrong. It just calls into question what evidence do we have and so forth. And one of the examples that's mentioned in the article is this camel one. So again, moving along here to the films. And this is a BBC examining whether King David existed and so forth and what evidence we have. And it's, again, not going to argue he didn't. It's just looking at what archaeological evidence. If you simply use the Bible, you're not doing scholarship. You have to use outside objective evidence in that sense. Your post question is here, and your exam question. Okay, and then moving out of that, we have Christianity itself. And this is more a phenomenological believer's view. The lecture notes. Here we go, my little required lecture for you to listen to. I explain it there. And then the required reading here. And I believe I have 2 here. And actually, well, I'm sorry, I have 3. The Triumph of Christianity is a very short article. And you'll see it's from Skeptic Magazine. Okay, and you know, I say short and you guys are going, that's not too short. But if you had it in print form, it's 3 pages. And it's very well liked because what it looks at is in the first century, why is it that Christianity succeeded as a religion and the other smaller religious groups around it died out? And what did Christianity offer that allowed it to be successful in that sense? So it's the triumph of Christianity and why it was successful in terms of surviving today. And then the introduction to Christianity is a religion facts. What I did was I copied and pasted from what's called religionfacts.com, and I made out of it a nice clear little article for you. And then this is the BBC, and there's various links when you open it up, and to choose 4 links to look at. Okay, so there's various links there. And going out of that, so that was the reading, the film. This is interesting. It's a BBC film on the life of Jesus, and it's not so much, um, it's actually really examining not so much the life of Jesus as I should say the death of Jesus and various ideas of what might have happened to him. Well, the classic one is he died on the cross and he rose from the dead, and that would be the believer's perspective. But this film investigates other ideas about what could have happened to him. And again, it's done purely academically. I used to have students watch a part of it, but they told me, no, you have to finish it because all the good ideas come at the end of the film. So you really have to push through the whole film to get the message of that. And then the post here, and just like your Seek post where I said, come up with a creative post having completed the material, I'm sure you probably like that because it takes the pressure off and you could be creative and focus on something that you feel like you understand. And so creatively create a post here and then answer your own post question and then the exam question. Okay, so clicking out of that. From lesson plan 12, we jump into the branches of Christianity and then scholarship. So that will be for next week, and I'll explain that in my next weekly directive for week 6. Okay, so again, if you have any questions or you feel uncomfortable with biblical scholarship and you want some clarity on what it's about, read through my professor notes and read through everything there, and then you're more than welcome to email me. Again, this lesson plan 11 and lesson plan 14 in no way is meant to be offensive. It's meant to introduce you to a field that's in my discipline that is what you would study at any Harvard College, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, etc. This is called a college scholarly perspective. Okay, thank you so much. Namaste.